If you're haunted and harassed by your own inner critic, if you've ever been curious about why hypnosis works so well, if you're a seasoned hypnotist, or if you suspect that the inner critic is actually hypnotizing you to hold back from reaching the greatness that you know deep down is inside you, lean in and get inspired to get out of your comfort zone and create your one precious life with purpose and intention. If you like this show, you'll love my powerful hypnosis audio, The Answer Room, because it gives you crystal clear guidance and direction and illuminates an ingenious way to make triumphant decisions, no matter how stuck you feel or how confused you were. This powerful hypnosis audio is my gift to you when you go to theimpostermonster.com. Again, that's theimpostermonster.com. Don't forget theimpostermonster.com. And yes, I'm done saying it. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. I'm Lori Hammond, and I'm truly grateful for you. Welcome, my friends. You are going to absolutely love this conversation with Kerry Madgwick. Kerry is a clinical nutritionist, clinical hypnotherapist, trauma release specialist and instructor, mindset coach, speaker, and author. Kerry guides her clients to release past stress, trauma, and the limiting beliefs that are holding them back by helping them take control of their health and happiness so they can manage their mind and change how the past plays out in the future. Kerry's clients thrive as they embrace the core principles of living a healthy, happy lifestyle with simple, easy techniques that work. Kerry has been passionate about all things health-related for over 25 years, and she helps her clients embrace the core principles of living a healthy lifestyle without fads or gimmicks, so they can build successful habits in simple and easy steps. In this amazing conversation, Kerry shares her own experience of moving from extremely ill, stressed, depressed, and overwhelmed to who she is today. This woman walks her talk, and her story will inspire and motivate you to take control of your health and well-being. Kerry is also going to share the ways that she has overcome her imposter monster and the tools and tactics that she has used to move forward in her business and build a vibrant, healthy business, as well as a vibrant, healthy life. I hope you love this conversation. Kerry, I am so excited to have you here today. I know that my audience is in for a huge treat. You and I have gotten to know each other a little bit in the mastermind group, and the more I get to know you, the more you speak and share in my groups, in clubhouse rooms, the more value I realize you have to offer. And so I would love to just let the audience eavesdrop on our conversation today. And if you would start just by sharing your journey, where you were when you started, what brought you to what you're doing today, and what it is that you do today. I know that's a big overarching question.
I'll be as brief as I can, but yeah, I just want to say, Lori, thank you so much. I think I'm really honored to be here, and I think as they always say, when you're ready, the teacher will appear. And I think that you've been my teacher for what I needed. In November, I set out and that I wanted to up-level my business and expand. And there you were. And that's why I joined your mastermind. And it's been incredibly valuable. And you've created such an amazing community. And what is shared in there, not only by you, but by everybody else, I think is just so valuable. It's incredibly amazing. So thank you for that and for being part of this part of my journey as well. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I guess my journey is that 5 years ago, if you told me I'd be a hypnotherapist, I would literally have laughed at you because I thought it was kind of way out there and not something that I would ever experience. So I guess in a way, my journey starts quite a long time ago in that we moved countries because we had to, because of things that were going on. And I ended up, as we went through, getting more and more ill with my health. I worked for myself, which was fortunate, but I was really ill to the point that in the afternoons by 2 p.m., I was in so much agony. I just wanted to kind of give up and lay down on the couch, and that was it. And I think we all take on this role of being the victim of this is happening to me. And it's really challenging, but at the same time, really liberating when you realize that actually you are not responsible. It's not your fault as such, but that you have the ability to control where you are and change that. And I think it's, as I say, both frustrating and incredibly empowering because you can do something about it. And I chose to do something about it rather than be stuck with kind of the medical model of take this pill and then take that pill to challenge the side effects of that pill and solve the side effects of that pill, and so on and so on. So I went down the path of, I guess you'd say, healing myself naturally. I was very fortunate in that I found a professor who understood the issues that I was having that were specifically related to my gut health. And I dealt with that. But there was always a piece of the puzzle missing. And I think that was specifically my beliefs, understanding that stress was perceived and that we could get rid of that, that I could change my thoughts, that I could manage my own mind. And it was in that journey that I learned about meditation, specifically transcendental meditation. I went on then to learn energy healing, and all of those things made a difference. But it was my dad passed away. It'll be 3 years ago in May. And it was I guess the challenge of dealing with that kind of led me to hypnotherapy, and the peace that I found in learning hypnotherapy and the techniques that were just so instant in making changes, and then just gone on to then work with clients and bring me to where I am today. So
oh my goodness. I love that you shared this. I'm getting to know so much about you just through this conversation already. Something that you said really stood out to me, and that was kind of when you were able to step out of that victim mentality, this is happening to me, and step into a place of taking responsibility. And I just heard someone say the other day, taking responsibility doesn't mean that you're to blame, but it means that you're responsible for that you have the ability to get yourself out of it, to find a way out. So I love that that's part of your story. And I think that that's a really key component. Would you just talk a little bit more about that mindset shift? You mentioned that it was both hard and empowering, and talk a little bit more about what happened when you stepped outside that victim mentality into a place of empowerment.
okay, so I think the challenge is that we grow up our whole lives not understanding and not being taught that we can manage our mind. And I just thought my thoughts were my thoughts, my beliefs were my beliefs. If I was ill, I was ill, and that was it. And I think we're also told in that you're ill, there's nothing you can do about it. You're stressed, there's nothing you can do about it. So you start that, oh my God, this is it. This is my life. This is what it's going to be like. And I think when I then understood that actually my beliefs were just the thoughts I kept thinking, and that I think sometimes it's not necessarily changing those thoughts, but it's understanding that you can put better thoughts on top. So I always talk to my clients about the more you put the good things on top, the not so good things drop out the bottom. So when we're talking about health issues, weight loss, it's don't force the change, but drink more water. When you drink more water, the cravings disappear. And I think it's the same sort of process of you can't force your thoughts to change because they are your thoughts, but you can bring the better thoughts in on the top. And then when I was able to separate myself from the label of I am ill, in that this is what's happening to my body, but I can change what I put into my body. I can change how I think about that. I think that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book as well, when I said, if you believe you can heal yourself, you can. And that's not necessarily a woo-woo thing, but I think if you believe you can make those changes, you will find the solutions. So that's what it was about. And then when I believed that actually my thoughts were just, my beliefs were just thoughts I kept thinking, that I could change those, that I could find solutions. And that's what opened me up to then looking for the solutions and finding ways that I could change and heal myself.
Is it okay to dive a little bit more into your story and give us a little bit more clear picture of the before and the after of what you were experiencing before this transformation and after?
Yeah, so I think it's a really challenging question, because I think when we feel better, and it's hard to go back to where you were. But I think my illness had been, I had endometriosis and I had spastic colon, and I was told there were no solutions. I'd been ill for a number of years. It had taken a number of years for the diagnosis to happen. And I think it was just that despair, I guess, and the victimhood of, this is me, this is my life, this is all I have to look forward to. I don't know how I'm going to progress my business. I can't see how things are going to change. My social life, I'm not a very sort of extrovert person. I am more of an introvert. But our social life came to a standstill because I never knew when I was going out, when I was going to end up in agony. There were circumstances that I thought I had no control over. So it was really challenging. And I think it's really difficult because we put these labels on ourselves. And I think the labels put us kind of in a box that we don't seem to be able to move out of. And that's where I felt I was in this really stuck situation where there was kind of no way forward. Whereas when I then kind of looked at, do I want to be labeled as this? Do I want to be labeled as my illness? Do I want to live with, and I think it's a challenging cycle when we get caught in the stress, anxiety, depression, and it seems that there's no way out of it. And I think that's what meditation really did for me, was it enabled me to take a step back and realize that I am my body, but I'm not my body, and that I can control it. And it was that situation of, actually, I can kind of step aside and look at that illness and go, where are the solutions? What can I change? What are the small steps I can take every day to make those changes? And that's why I said that's what I love what you do, is that I took small steps every day that made the big changes. And it didn't happen overnight. It got challenging because it got better and then it got worse. But it was through sticking with that every day that things started to get better. And now I'm in a situation where I understand that I can totally manage my mind. Life's a mess. We all still have, things that come up that we can't control, and we know that. But I think it's understanding that whatever comes up, I can manage my mind and my thought process and how I deal with that situation that is not necessarily always in my control. And I think that's incredibly empowering. And that's what I think I just like everybody to really understand and know, that is that it's easy. There's simple steps, but it can be easy to get to that place of actually absolutely knowing that regardless of what happens, you have that resilience of that you can manage your mind and you can get through pretty much anything, I think. So
you said something that really stood out to me, which you said that you took small steps repeatedly that led to where you are today. And I think so often when people are struggling, it's almost like we're waiting for this epiphany, or we're waiting for some really complicated solution. And I think it can be hard to continue those small steps over and over, day after day, when we don't see immediate results. So will you dive into that a little bit and talk more about how small steps are so transformational? If you'd like to share some of the small steps that have been most transformational for you in this journey, and then talk a little bit about where you find the consistency and the relentlessness to keep doing those small steps when you don't see the immediate results.
Okay, so I think I just wanted to share, obviously you always talk about your 3 Bs, and I absolutely love that. And I now use that consistently, of changing, your body language, your breathing and your beliefs. But before that, I guess I guess we all do that probably in some way, not understanding exactly what we're doing. So I think the way that you explain it just makes it so much easier to understand. And that is exactly what you're doing. And that's how simple it is. And that's how quickly it can happen. So for me, it was and I guess it's that when you're looking for the transformation and the big epiphany, it was just, I did a lot of research into meditation, and it was one of the reasons why I trained as a meditation teacher. And I guess that led me to my hypnotherapy. Is just there was so much evidence about how much daily meditation could change your life. And I always say to my clients, when I first sat down to meditate, before I learned to manage my mind, because your thoughts will never stop. I think there's a neuroscientist, and I know you put me on to Andrew Huberman, and through Andrew Huberman, I found her. Her name is Caroline Leaf, and she was born in Zimbabwe, where I was born, and she then moved to South Africa, and then she moved to the States. And she says that you can go 3 months without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without oxygen, but literally 3 seconds with not having your thoughts cycle every 3 seconds. So I think that is, when I sat down to meditate, I was under the illusion that my mind had to be completely clear. And I think that's the challenge, is it was never going to be clear. Those thoughts were always coming. And I'd sit down to meditate and I think, oh, I have to do my ironing. Oh, the washing needs doing. Oh, this has got to be done. I was like, oh, this is not working. I feel more stressed meditating than not meditating. And then I found Deepak Chopra does a 21-day free guided meditation. And I found that, and his voice resonated with me. And I think that can also be a challenge. Sometimes we sit down when we're learning, and if someone's voice kind of is irritating to you, it's hard to then follow the process. But his was literally, I think it was, I want to say 10 minutes. And I think it was literally a couple of minutes of him talking and then probably 8 to 10 minutes of meditation. And I thought, do you know what, if I can just fit that into my day, and then I can make progress. And that's what I started doing, was just every day doing that. And through the process, then understanding that although I couldn't stop my thoughts, I could manage them and recycle them and change them. So I always have a saying, and I know it's not my saying. I know, like you always say, someone said it and I picked it up, but it was always, this is not my circus and not my monkeys. So that was about the mind chatter. And it was actually just the meditation, and then just learning to go, sometimes I spoke out loud and said, oh, stop it. It's not my monkeys. It's not my circus. Because that is the same, I think, as you say, with the body language, the breathing and the beliefs. And I was doing that in a physical way, but possibly not understanding exactly what I was doing. Is I was changing my body language because I was standing up, I was speaking out loud. So I was changing my breathing, I was changing the way I was thinking. And it was just consistently doing those. And then realizing, I think, we go to the gym and we get fitter and we feel better, and then we stop going because we, oh, this is all great, and you stop going. And then after a few months you go, oh, I feel like I'm a bit breathless walking up the stairs. And I think managing your mind is the same, is that we feel better and then we stop doing it, and then you wonder why kind of you've not feeling as good as you were or you should. And I think that was then the process of me going, okay, this is something I need to be doing every single day, because we have our mind. And I think that was the thing, is if our thoughts cycle every 3 seconds, you need to be managing that 24/7, and you need an easy and simple way to do it. Otherwise it becomes challenging and stressful, and none of us want that in life. We want simple and easy. So
Kerry, I love what you said when you said, not my circus, not my monkeys, because I know I have heard that before. I'm not sure where I first heard it, but hearing you say it just now gave me this a beautiful aha moment, because we talk about, like, when you learn meditation, they'll talk about becoming the observer. It's like you're observing your thoughts. And that simple phrase, all of a sudden it puts you in the position of realizing it's almost, I feel sometimes it's almost like we are being thought instead of thinking. It's like, this is just happening on autopilot. So I love the way that that little phrase empowers people. Will you talk to me a little bit more about, just kind of walk me through a client experience? So what kind of people come and seek an appointment with you, and what does it look like as they are moving through the process with you? This is just my deep curiosity, because you've said a couple things. You talked about gut health. You mentioned the word endometriosis, and I have a loved one that struggles with that. So I'm curious, and I can see the word microbiome on the banner behind you. So I would love to just know a little bit more about what it looks like for a person to work with you and who it is that you work with.
Okay, great. So so in the process of healing my own health struggles, I discovered how important our gut health and our microbiome was. And I think Hippocrates knew 2000 years ago when he said all disease begins in the gut. And I think science has known that all along, but they use different terminology. And I think this is the challenge, is that it's not been accessible to many people because we haven't understood. A microbiome is a big word and most people don't know what it is. And so I think it was through that and understanding how my gut health was so imperative, because everything we eat and absorb has to go through our gut to be processed for our body to absorb the energy. So if your gut is not working properly, you're not absorbing the nutrients and the energy, and that then has an impact on our neurochemicals. We have this brain gut connection, and I recently discovered, even after all my years of working with this, is that actually when we're a fetus, there's a neural crest and it splits to our brain, and the other half goes into our gut. And then we have the connection with our vagus nerve between the gut and the brain. So I never fully understood the connection until I discovered that and how closely everything is linked. So whilst I think anxiety and depression are kind of in our mind, if our gut is not working properly, we can manage our mind. But if we're not managing our physical health, then it's challenging to resolve that. So typically the clients I work with have got a lot of stress and anxiety. And I guess in the same place where I was, of being a victim of trying everything and nothing's working, because no one understands that the root cause of the symptoms is actually your gut health. And once you can start to heal and fix and rebalance and repair your gut, you start to have that impact on your health. So that's how most of my clients come to me, is kind of, I always say I'm your last resort, but I don't mind being that, because I'll get you to a position of being better. So generally they come and see me. We have, if it's a nutrition consultation, we then have an appointment. I go through their whole history, because as we know, although the history is sometimes the story that we get stuck in, and not always something that you want the client to get stuck back in, but sometimes it is important of where that person's come. And it then helps me understand whether hypnotherapy would be a good add-on for that person, or whether they just need the nutrition side. So we would then go through a consultation, and then typically people work with me for either a month or 3 months. And that just involves, as we say, putting the good things in, so the things drop out the bottom. And typically we understand that sugar, processed foods, things with chemicals are not that great for our physical health. And just to start putting good quality nutrients, good protein, vegetables, all of those things at the top, so the not so good things drop out the bottom. And then it's about supplementing as well, because I always say it's kind of like, I guess, the same way as managing your mind works. When you've not managed it for a long time, it takes a lot of effort to stop the monkeys in the circus. But once you do it daily, it's a lot simpler and easier. So it takes quite a bit of effort to get to the point of repairing and healing your gut, to the point where actually, when I say we're kind of balanced and you can move forward, And then if someone has got a lot of stress or trauma, then I will do some hypnotherapy sessions with them as well, because it just is incredible, as you know, for helping people just rewire their neural networks. And to, I think for most people, understand that we have positives from our perceived stress and trauma, that you've made it through. So it hasn't, I don't know, for want of being quite dramatic, I guess, it hasn't killed you, so it's made you stronger. And it's about finding that process with my clients and then taking them through. And really, I think my aim is just for people to enjoy their life and to understand that it can be easy, that they can thrive, that things can be wonderful. And that's it, is just getting people to that point of going, actually, it's in the past, I'm moving forward, I'm changing. As you always say, all is well. And I love that saying, because I think it just, you know, it's the place that I would love everybody to be, really.
So do you sometimes have clients come to you for nutrition, and then you infuse hypnotherapy into that? And do you sometimes have clients come to you for hypnosis and you infuse nutrition into that?
Yes, both ways. Yeah.
Okay. It's incredible to me how closely linked those two are. I know, as I have worked with people to help them with weight loss, and as I have gone on my own weight loss journey, I've noticed how intricately linked what we are putting into our body is to how we are showing up in the world, to our moods, to our emotions, to our ability to experience autonomy over our life. And so I really love that you are putting both pieces into that equation. How do your clients usually find you? Do most people come to you through referrals, or this is, again, just me geeking out and being curious?
Well, the exciting thing is that now most people are coming to me through referrals, which I think is such a blessing, and it's a compliment to have people come through as referrals. So I'm really grateful for that. I do have people who come through, interestingly, and we talk about this obviously, and I know you have your amazing Magic Words program in our Mindset Mastery, but what I found for me personally is that I have people who follow me on social media. They don't reach out to me through social media, but they reach out to me in person or through referrals, but they've seen what I've been putting out on social media. So it works to the extent of, it's for me an education platform, and then people are seeing what I'm doing and then reaching out to me through that. But most of my clients do come to me through referrals.
You mentioned earlier that you had been struggling with meditation, and when you found Deepak Chopra, that his meditation really resonated with you. Just hearing his voice, and maybe kind of just for me, there's like an energy that comes through when I listen to his meditations, and he just has this peaceful, soothing way of speaking. And when I hear you talk about people coming in through referral, it feels that it has that same undertone to it, where it's a person who knows, likes, and trusts a friend, and that friend says, go see Kerry because she's going to help you. It's like that instant connection that you picked up from Deepak Chopra. And I know you know this, but just for the listener, that the number one indicator that a person will get success, whether it's in a medical facility, a therapy room, a hypnosis session, working with a personal trainer or a nutritionist, is if they have rapport with the person who is guiding them. And I think when we bring people in through referrals or through showing up consistently on social media and helping people know, like, and trust us on the various platforms, it just sets the stage for a powerful transformation for people. And so I'm grateful for you sharing that, because I think that will help people who are listening. If you were to rewind back and think about when you were first starting out, and maybe, you know, that imposter monster was saying, what do you have to offer, or whatever the limiting belief was that was perhaps making it a little bit scary to get started, what got you to the place where you were starting to bring in clients and getting, you know, before you were getting those referrals? Can you think back to what that was like?
So I guess for my hypnotherapy specifically, I did consultations and I charged £10 for a session. So I know that seems, well, for those of us who are established, it's an incredibly small amount. For people starting out, it may seem okay, and that's okay. But with my nutrition, I'll get to that in a minute, but with the hypnotherapy was something new to me. And I thought, I need the confidence in myself to know that I'm getting the results with my clients. And so that's what I did, is I offered sessions for £10. And I had obviously lots of people who turned up. And I know there's this whole idea of the more people pay for things, the more value they put on it. But I had just some amazing transformations. I had a teenage boy who came to see me. He'd been bullied. He was having struggles. And the first time he showed up, he was kind of in his, I think we all call them tracksuit pants, don't we? But not, not dress trousers. And he had trainers on. And I think literally in the whole session, he had, he'd agreed to have hypnotherapy. We'd spoken about it. His mother had kind of said he needed to have it done. And I always go through the process of, well, actually he needs to agree to it. And he was old enough to make that assessment for himself. So he literally, I think, agreed to have the hypnotherapy. And we did the session after when he came in for his third session, he was dressed in a proper dress shirt and, what I say, proper trousers. And he sat there and he told me of his dreams and what he wanted to achieve. And that was just incredible. And I thought, I haven't done that, but I've guided him to get to that place. And it was the physical change as well as the mental change. And I think that for me was then, I feel confident in that I know what I have to share and offer and guide people through. So, and I think that, I look back at it now and I think, oh my goodness, £10 for a session, but it got me to that point where I knew that what I had to offer and help people, because I think that's the thing for people who newly train, we know that hypnotherapy works. Otherwise we wouldn't go out and train and learn to share it with others. But it can be scary and that, oh my goodness, what if it doesn't work? And I think it is just getting to the place where you can be absolutely confident and know that it does work.
I'm so happy I asked that question, because that was an incredible answer. And it so beautifully articulates what my guest just before you, Cliff Ravenscraft, expressed for coaching people. Do you know Cliff? I think you've been in some of Cliff's clubhouse rooms. Maybe.
No, I haven't yet. I'll have to. I'll follow him, and I'll definitely be in one of his rooms.
Yeah, he's just incredible, and in his podcast episode, he said the exact same thing that you just said. He said, you need to just start. And he said, you could even do these sessions for free. Just go out there and start using these tools. And when I look back, that was what I did as well. I offered free sessions to everybody that had been, there were 80 people in this business course that I took in trying to figure out how to do the business side of my hypnosis business. And it gave me that confidence, and it was so scary. And I still had the imposter monster saying, you are ridiculous. But seeing the results gave me that boost and helped me feel confident to charge. So for people who listen to this podcast and hear me talking about the importance of charging a premium rate and honoring the value that you're bringing to people, I do think that's an important piece of the puzzle. But I realized through this conversation and the conversation I had with Cliff last week, how important it is to just get out there and start using these tools and do it in a way that where you're kind of just showing up with curiosity and a what if, a let's see attitude. Like, let's just see what happens there. I think there's a tremendous value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is when you realize, as you grow in your business and you realize the transformations and how you're helping, and I always say guiding people, because we always know that it's their mind and it's their transformation. But as you realize the impact that you have, and I had this conversation with a colleague the other day where she said, oh, I haven't charged enough for my program. And I said to her, for me, that's such a good indication that you're ready to step up to the next level, because you know you're providing way more value than what you've charged someone for. So I think that's, you know, and I think that is the point, is we always say meet our clients where they are and get them to where they want to go. And I think the same is true for ourselves, is remember to meet yourself where you are on your journey and do what feels easy and comfortable for you until you get to the next step and the next step. And I think one of the really valuable things that you said was, what if it is about the journey? It's not necessarily about the destination. What if it's about the fun of being on the journey as you go? And that really resonated with me. And I think it's so true as well, is that often we are so focused on, I've got to get to this destination and that level, is that we forget that the journey can actually be fun along the way. So
I love that. And, you know, it's interesting because one of the ways that really drove that home for me, and I'm still always going back and remembering to infuse fun into my day when I'm stressing myself out with my thoughts. But one of the ways that has really helped me do that is through meditation, and is through sitting and noticing how many times I have to come back to the breath and come back to the breath, because my monkey mind is going all over the place. And here I heard Dawson Church talk about how perhaps the whole purpose of meditation is just that coming back, coming back, coming back. It's not being good at it. It's not just being able to focus. It's reminding yourself to come back. And I think the same thing is true in business. It's coming back to the fun. It's coming back to the joy of doing what you do. Kerry, you talked earlier about the small steps that you consistently took on your health journey and the small steps that you guide your clients through. Can you talk about those small steps in the context of building your business? You know, going from where you were when you started out to where you are now.
So I think initially they weren't small steps, because I think we're all guilty of it somewhere along the line. I had this massive to-do list, and I was stressing about the things that I wasn't doing. And so I think it was, although I guess you're still taking small steps, because the massive to-do list happens, but there's only certain things that you can do every day that move your business forward, and you're doing those consistently, and all the other stuff just falls off kind of the to-do list because it just never gets done, because it's the things that are not important. So I think the consistent things were just, I guess, learning for me to manage my own mind was the important thing, I think, because you know, and I know you talk about this a lot, is the imposter monsters, because if you try and do too many things and you become overwhelmed, I think you don't do anything. So I guess it's a challenging journey, I want to say, because I'm not very good at putting myself out there. So it was challenging for me. I'm not very good on social media because, and that's another thing that I love that you said about making social media fun, because it's like, I don't want to be on there. There's too much negativity. I don't want to be part of that. But I went on social media, I think, and I never posted anything personal. It was always very kind of educational and business related. And those were the things that I was good at being consistent about, is those kind of educational. And I think that was the thing, although I didn't share anything of myself personally, which I now understand probably would have made my journey quicker, because people would have learnt who I am and my story. But I still find it quite difficult to share my story, because it's like, that's not, I guess saying it out loud sounds silly, but that's not what I want you to know about me. I want you to know about how I can help you and what I can do for you. But I guess my story helps people understand that I've been there. So my consistency was doing that, putting the posts on social media, going to networking, which obviously is not happening so much at the moment, but it is online. And it was just making connections with other people and talking to people about what I did. And it was just consistently doing that and putting myself out there as much as I could to explain what I did and how I could help people. And then from there, it was, obviously we all know the really scary thing of doing talks and podcasts, and but it was just putting myself out to do talks, little 10-minute presentations anywhere I could. And that was what I started doing consistently, and I'm still trying to do that consistently, the social media consistently. And it's just, and they're small things. I don't have a to-do list anymore. So I think it was one, you recommended the book, The One Thing. It was The One Thing.
Yes.
And that really resonated with me. And that probably every day we are doing one thing that moves our business forward. And whatever that one thing is for you, whether it's finding the places you can speak, whether it's making connections, whether it's doing the social media posts, whether it's doing your YouTube videos, it's just focusing on that one thing rather than this whole long, overwhelming to-do list. So I know that's probably been a very long answer to what was a very short and simple question.
I'm grateful for it. I feel like you just gave massive value to the listener. And that book, The One Thing, I highly recommend that to everyone, because he walks you through a process of deciding what that one thing is. If a person has heard of the Pareto principle, it is, what is the 20% of effort that we are putting forth that's creating 80% of our results. And that book helps you decide what to do that actually matters during the day. I'm so happy to see you back with us, Kerry. You were frozen up for a second. I thought, oh my gosh, did I lose her? And I just kept talking, and I was thinking, am I talking to nobody?
Yes, the exciting thing of being able to talk to other people all around the world, but the challenges of losing signals and connections.
Yes, and it happens. And you know, I think that fear keeps so many people from working over Zoom and working over Wi-Fi. But it's cool, because when it happens, it gives us an opportunity to go ahead and move forward anyway. This is such a perfect segue, because last week you posted something in the group, and as I read this, if you want to edit this out later, that's totally fine, but it really reminds me of this. You know, you have mentioned resilience a couple times, and we just experienced that technical glitch, and what you wrote in the group was just some quick feedback on how effective the 3 Bs were last Thursday. I hosted a webinar on mental health and resilience. 5 minutes in, my slides simply disappeared. I used the 3 Bs and took on my calm persona after reading The Alter Ego Effect, and continued the webinar with no slides. Grateful to have these amazing tools and techniques that really work when we remember to use them. So I loved that, because it was such a beautiful example of resilience, and of like, when those scary what ifs happen, realizing it's actually going to be okay. Do you want to talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so it was I want to say an amazing experience, which sounds ridiculous, because if that had happened to me, I don't know, I don't typically use slides for that very reason. So when I do talks in person, I normally actually have a paper flip chart, and that's my icebreaker, is I go, this can't let me down, it's not technology, it's paper. So I never really used slides that much, and for me it was a good experience, because I think it had brought me to the point where I thought, I have these tools, I'm using them, and it's worked. And so I think we talked a little bit about doing the work and being consistent, and I think that's it, is that I don't know, everybody talks about it now, is neuroplasticity and building these pathways. And someone explained it very clearly, and I can't remember who it was, about, imagine you had a forest and you created a path through the forest, and the first time it's really difficult to find that pathway, because you're setting out to find the pathway. But every time you go through that forest on the same pathway, you're making it easier and easier and easier, and you're creating that neural pathway. So for me, I guess the resiliency and the habits is that pathway, and that I now have, because I've practiced the 3 Bs so often, I don't have to think about it. It happens automatically because the easiest way of explaining it, I now have a 3Bs pathway in my neural networks of that's just automatic. Whereas, and I think that's the thing of doing the small steps, because they're easy to do every day and create the pathways, as it were, so that it becomes an automatic habit. Initially, we have to go, okay, I'm not feeling so great. I have to breathe, change my body language, change my self-talk. And it got to the point now where for me it's automatic. So that was really what that experience was about, was, oh my goodness, I now have this amazing neural pathway of my 3Bs just to create calm and just carry on. So yeah.
I love that so much. I'm going to dive in for a moment and just talk about the 3Bs for anyone who might be new to them. I know anyone who's hung out with me for any amount of time knows what they are, but anyone who might be new to this podcast. So the 3Bs, this is my favorite form of self-hypnosis, and it can happen in a moment, especially once you've conditioned it by reinforcing that path through the forest over and over. And what it is it's changing your body language, your breathing, and your beliefs. And that beliefs one seems really sticky, but Kerry has mentioned a few times that beliefs are just our recycled self-talk. It's the things we say to ourselves over and over and over that we start to believe, and our body responds to those words. So if you've ever tried affirmations and they haven't worked for you, I believe that the key is changing the first 2Bs before that third one, then before you put in that affirmation. So if you're listening right now, you can just let yourself stand up or sit up a little bit taller, almost like you're being pulled up from the top of your head rather than like bringing your shoulders up like this, because this is the body language of anxiety. So let your shoulders relax like you're a marionette on a string, and then lift your chin, lift your eyes. You can outstretch your arms if you want. Really do this with me, because you're going to see how amazing it works. Smile big, and then take a deep breath from low in your belly and let out a long sigh of relief, and just say to yourself, what if I can do this? What if I am okay? And notice how Kerry had mentioned earlier, when you put that beautiful stuff on top, the rest of the stuff falls out the bottom. I tell people 2 things can't occupy the same place at the same time. So if you're telling yourself something positive and powerful, that disempowering thought can't fit. It might slip right back in, and that's when you just reinforce that path in the forest again. You just go back into the 3Bs over and over. And in that quote I read of Kerry's a moment ago, she mentioned the alter ego effect. Kerry, do you want to talk a little bit about the impact, what you got out of that book? Because that book came up in my podcast with Chase Hughes a few days ago, and I think it's a really cool book.
I think so. What I really loved about it is that we've all heard those sayings, feel the fear and do it anyway, which I found really difficult, because why would you want to feel the fear and do it anyway? It just didn't. And for some people it might be fine and that's okay, but for me it just didn't feel that great. And then a lot of other people say fake it till you make it, and that didn't resonate with me either, because I was like, why do you want to be a fake person? You want to be who you are, but you want to do the things that you do as the person you are, just do them in a better way. So the thing that I liked about the alter ego, I think what I got out of it is looking at someone else, liking what they do, what you resonate with them. So for me, I look at people who do, so I guess quite serious and quite studious, and I like people who do things in a more fun and relaxed way. And so for me, it was that. So it was my calm alter ego. And I think I know that Mike Mandel talks about it, and you've spoken about it, about the kids in the classroom. And there's always the one kid who comes to the front of the classroom. And the really funny thing for me is that for a long time before I knew any of this stuff, my husband used to say to me, "You're talking to me in your teacher voice." So it's always been there, but I hadn't realized what it was. So I have my teacher voice, but then through reading the alter ego, I was like, I need this calmer, kind of relaxed, more fun persona, and not just always the very serious persona. So I just like that, is that you're not faking it till you make it. You're not feeling the fear. We recognize those qualities in other people because we do have them. They just not at the front of the class, as it were, but we can access them if we choose to do so. So that's what I got out of that, is that we have all of those qualities. It's just learning to access those as and when we need them and bring those to the fore. So that's what I really found helpful about that. And also the fact of, I guess, in that it can also be the way that we dress. So if you have say a particular shirt, skirt, dress, scarf that makes you feel really good and a certain way, wear that when you do things that might be a little bit scary or challenging for you, because you automatically are then, you're doing your 3Bs automatically. You're changing your body language, you're changing your beliefs, because you've got that, oh, I feel really good, I feel confident, I feel calm. So I think that was the thing, and they tied in, really well together. So that was what I got out of it, which was amazing. And I just think it's such an easy process to do. And I know we have specific hypnotherapy techniques that can get people really easily into that state, but that was just really helpful for me. So
thank you for that. And the author, Todd Herman, is not a hypnotist. I don't think he's even studied hypnosis from what I can tell, but I feel like that book in itself is a really cool hypnosis protocol, and especially a self-hypnosis protocol. I listened to an interview with Todd Herman, the author of that book, and Tom Bilyeu, and he addressed that idea of faking it till you make it, and how by taking on an alter ego, that some people might think that's faking it. And he said what it's actually doing is activating traits that are inside you already. So it's almost like it's putting you down that path through the forest that maybe you've only been down a couple times. But if a person has ever experienced confidence in any area of their life, it means that it is a pathway that they can access. It's just underutilized. And so when we give ourselves permission to go down that pathway, even though we're not used to doing it in this situation, it starts to reinforce that path, so that now when we go and we speak in front of people, or we go to a networking meeting, or we go get onto a podcast, or do those things that used to be scary, we can fake confidence and understand that we're actually not faking it. Because I have learned that if you can perceive it and you can see it in another person, it means that it is something that you can utilize for yourself. I'm so happy this conversation took this turn, because I feel like this is really valuable for the listener, and it's good reinforcement for me.
Well, I think it's, once again, is that for me, it was the labels and the way we perceive things. So I said to you at the very beginning, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm really excited. And I think we label nervous as excited because we're told it's scary to speak in public. It's stressful to do these things. So we have, as we know, we have our mirror neurons that we see things, and our brain can mirror those things. And I think that's the thing, is we see someone and we label them as stressed or nervous, when actually they could be excited. So it's taking the labels away and going, actually, do you know what if it isn't nervous? What if it is excited? What if it's not stress? What if it's just motivation to get me to be where I want to be? And I think that's the thing, is just kind of taking it back to that. And I think that's what you said, is that in what other situation that is the opposite of that have you felt that? So where have you felt confidence, and actually it feels kind of like what we label as nervousness? You have those same feelings in your body. So I think that's is really powerful as well.
Absolutely. Earlier you said, I wrote this down, let me find it. You mentioned that when I asked you to share your story a little, and you said when you feel better, it's hard to go back to and remember where you were before. And I thought that was such a beautiful principle to highlight, because I think so often when a person is stuck in the problem, it's really difficult to start to imagine and conceive of what it will be like to be on the other side of that problem. So if you could just talk a little bit in that context, and in the context of business and someone who perhaps is also introverted. I know I am an introvert myself, and nervous about putting themselves out there and starting to use these tools. How would you help that person walk from the problem where they're feeling stuck and start to conceive of what life is like on the other side when they step into that confidence?
So I think for me, there's two things that really helped me get from stuck to the other side. And that was, what is the worst thing that could happen? So if you put yourself out there, I mean, I wrote my book, I published it on Amazon, and I went, oh my God, what if no one buys it? And my husband went, what is the worst thing that could happen? You've achieved your dream of writing the book. If no one buys it, it doesn't matter. So that for me was kind of like, no one's going to die because you failed at something. So that was really helpful to me. And then someone said to me, and I can't remember who it was, that what if someone is looking for what you need, but your fear is stopping you from putting that out there? That could literally help one person save their life, change their life. And I think when you look at things from that perspective of, if I could just do this one thing, it could help somebody. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it doesn't matter. It's not life and death. And actually somebody could go, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This resonates with me. I can change this. So I think those are the two things, probably the two lessons that helped me the most. And going from, I'm stuck, I don't want to put myself out there, to actually, it's almost your duty to get out there and help other people and share what you know. And I think that you've been a huge example for me of that, because you just get out there and do the stuff. And I think we have that and call it perfection, imposter, monster. Those are the things that can keep us stuck of, I'll do it when it's perfect, I'll do it when it's ready. Whereas actually, do you know what? You just need to start. You're a step ahead of the people behind you, and they will step forward with you. And I think you've been an incredible example of that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kerry. That just inspired the heck out of me. I really needed to hear that, because I think I've been holding back on moving to the next level that I know is right for me. And hearing you frame it that way, these are things that I know and things that I've remembered in the past, but I've lost sight of them. So I'm so grateful to you for sharing that for my personal benefit. Kerry, will you talk to us about the book that you've written? You've mentioned it a couple times and it's piqued my curiosity, and I would love to know more.
So the book I wrote it's called If You Believe You Can Heal Yourself, You Can. And as I said, it's not the woo-woo, if you just believe things will happen. It is that process of actually, if you believe that you can do something better, you can be better, you can solve your problems, you will look for the solutions. Whereas if you don't believe, you won't even try. So that was, and I guess that was my way of sharing my story of where I was, of feeling stuck, of feeling like a victim, of thinking the whole world was against me, and then actually realizing I could choose to stay where I was, or I could choose to move forward. And it was my choice in moving forward, and how the steps that I followed and the daily things that I talked about doing meditation, about making sure I was eating the right foods, about managing my mind. And it was just then my journey of getting from that place of being stuck to actually, this is where I am now, in an amazing place, because I made those choices to make my life better, if that makes sense, rather than just going, this is me, I'm stuck, so and so says I can't get better, this person said I'm stressed, I don't know how to deal with it. And I could have stayed in that victimhood, I could have stayed stuck, but I chose to search for answers. And sometimes they might have been a bit out there, and they might have been a bit strange, but it was just like, do you know what, I'll try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, that's absolutely fantastic. So, and that's where I got to my meditation and hypnotherapy, and they work, and they've just been amazing for me and amazing for all of my clients. So I think it's what they always say, a journey of 1,000 steps starts with one step, and that was literally it, was the one step and the next step and the next step, and just finding those solutions along the way. It took me a long time to heal myself, and that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, is because I want people to get those results a lot quicker than I did. I want them to share in the solutions that I found, and that's why I say, if I do a 3-month program, it took me probably 5 years and an awful lot of money investing in things that didn't work, supplements that didn't work. Now I found supplements that do work. I found a program that does work, and that's just what I want to share with people, and that this is how you can do it really quickly and easily if you choose to do so.
So if a person were to read your book, would it help them understand what you do with your one-on-one clients if they're not in a position to be ready yet to work with you one-on-one? Or is it something that kind of lays the framework for a person who wants to come to see you later?
So it lays the framework. I always say for my clients, if it's something that they can't afford a one-to-one with me, a lot of the information that I share is in the book. Obviously, I'm just not there to hold their hand and guide them through it, but it's a start. And most of my clients have either worked with me and then read my book, or read my book and come to work with me. And I think one of the probably the best recommendations I had was, I had a client who's dyslexic, and she's never read a book in her life. And she read my book and she sent me a message and she went, "Oh my goodness, this is the first book that I've read cover to cover. Thank you so much. It's been amazing." So, and I guess then again is the lesson to anyone who's wanting to write a book: just do it, because you don't know whose life it's going to impact and how much of a change it's going to make. And if it is just one person, that's okay.
And that was going to be my next question, because that's another thing I've been putting on the back burner is writing a book. And it's a dream I've had since childhood. Will you talk to me a little bit about that process, especially in the mindset category, where you knew you wanted to write the book, but you had to actually write the book? What did that look like?
So I think, like you, I was an avid reader as a child. I loved reading. I always wanted to write a book. I never realized it was going to be on the subject of health and mindset. And so I think, once again, it's one of those things where people always said it's really hard to write a book. It's really difficult. And I say that my book took me 3 months to write and publish, but it literally was probably 4 years, because it was 4 years that I laid out the chapters. I started to decide what I was going to write about, but it was that, oh, it's really difficult. How am I going to do this? And I kind of had this idea that I had to sit down and just write my book. So I was like, where am I going to find 3 months or 6 months to sit and write this book? And then I met someone through a mentorship program I did a while ago, and she'd written a book. And although it was very specific in a sales process, which was quite easy to lay out, I said to her, "Oh, how long did it take?" And she went, 3 months. And I was like, well, if she can do it in 3 months, so can I. So it took me a month to finish the book. So I sat down and I need to do 45 minutes a day. So that was my target. Some days I wrote more, some days I didn't do anything, some days I did less, but my set time was 45 minutes. So I literally wrote that in a month. And then a friend of ours very kindly did the cover, which is amazing. He did all the graphic designing for the cover. And I published it, self-published on Amazon, which, as we all know, is really easy to do when you know how. And it's that process of, we no longer have to go through a publisher and get this big book contract and everything, and it's there, it can be out there. So definitely do it. It's easier than you think.
Oh, thank you so much. And just seeing you light up when you talk about it and hearing you say just do it, you have inspired the heck out of me. I'm so grateful. Kerry, this has been so amazing. I am so happy that I listened to my gut and invited you on this show, because the few interactions that we've had inside my groups and online have just, every time you speak, I think this lady knows what she's talking about. She's figured some things out. And I'm just really grateful to have uncovered some of those things for my own benefit and for the benefit of the listener. Before we say goodbye, is there anything that I haven't asked you or anything that's on your heart to share that we haven't discussed yet?
I don't think so. I think it was just, I think what I said when we had our initial conversation is just, what if? I love that saying of what if. And I just want to say to people, what if it could be fun and easy? And I think we've shared and spoken about that before. And just to say that, you know, I know everyone's listening into the podcast and they've probably found you through other ways, but absolutely, you know, join whichever group you can of Laurie's, get involved. I think you have created such an amazing and beautiful community, and for anyone who's looking for guidance and support, then definitely, you know, come and join us and get the same guidance and support that I'm getting from you and from our whole community, which has been amazing. And I'm so grateful that I met you and that we're on this journey, this part of our journey together. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm grateful too. I love these communities and I am so grateful to you. Kerry, tell us the name of your book one last time, and then tell us where someone who's listening that wants to reach out and learn more about you and potentially work with you, where they would find you.
So my book is called If You Believe You Can Heal Yourself, 7 Steps, and it's available on Amazon. And anybody who wants to connect with me, I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is at KerryM212, and I'm on Facebook. If you just search for me as Kerry Madgwick, you'll find me on Facebook. So yeah, and obviously anyone who wants any help or support or guidance to do with their health, their gut health, stress, anxiety, anything around those, then please do reach out and I will help in any way that I can.
Wonderful. And I will have links to all of those things below the show, wherever you're watching or listening. Have an amazing day, everyone. And Kerry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And to everyone else, have an amazing day as well.
During this call, you heard Kerry and I talk about my groups. So I'm going to tell you about my groups in case you want to be a part of them. The first group is called Trancy Tuesdays, and I've been running this group for several years. It's a beautiful experience where people from all around the world meet for a 1-hour hypnosis session. And it's just a beautiful opportunity for people to bond and to find healing, physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual healing on these calls. Time and time again, I hear how transformational these calls are and how they are more powerful than one-on-one sessions. And I believe this with all my heart. I think something really magical happens when people from all around the world gather together with the intent of healing themselves and sending healing to others. I would absolutely love to have you in the Trancy Tuesday group. And you can find it by going to trancytuesdays.club. That's TRANCY Tuesdays.CLUB. If you would like more information about my mastermind group, right now it is an invitation only group, and you can find out more and apply to be invited if you email me at Lori@trancypants.com. Again, that's TRANCY pants.com. And my name is spelled LORI. Have an amazing day. And you can also find links to those groups wherever you're listening or watching this recording.
I'm so grateful you've listened all the way to the end. What is one tiny action step you'll take now based on an aha moment you got during the podcast? Maybe that life-changing action step is to come accept the gift I have for you at theimpostermonster.com. Head there right now to get your powerful hypnosis audio, The Answer Room. That lets you make important decisions and get crystal clear about your next step forward on this path of purpose in your one great and precious life.